Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Daisy. For today's video, we are going to be reading my subscribers' scary stories. So if you're interested, grab your snacks, grab your cobija, and let's get straight into it. So let's begin with story number 1. Hi Daisy, my name is Jessica and I have recently started watching / subscribed to your channel, specifically the scary stories. I grab my Cheetos and blankie, y orale, I am ready. Like many of your viewers, I have many encounters to share, but I'll give one that was bizarre and unexplainable. Well, at least for me. Thank you so much, Jessica. It really means a lot. I'm so glad that you like the spooky content. I live for the spooky content, so I'm just glad we're on the same page, especially with those Cheetos and blanket in hand. So thank you so much. It's a little long, but please stick with me. A few years back, when my husband and I still lived in a rented house, I woke up one morning and I felt paralyzed. When I say I was awake, I mean it was early morning, it was bright, and my room was as it was in reality, and I could see my husband sleeping next to me. I just couldn't move. I look over to my room entrance and I see an old woman with a busted looking face with dark hair, kind of sticking up everywhere, and a long brown burlap looking dress. If any of y'all have ever seen the movie 13 Ghosts, she looked very similar to the jackal, but without the cage thing on the head, and wearing the outfit I described, but very similar. Though I was unable to move, I watched her walk into my room and started crawling from the foot of the bed all the way on top of me and started slashing at me with her nails while she laughed manically at me. I didn't feel fear at the time, more like anger, and I felt myself physically yelling at her to get out, and just like that, she disappeared. I couldn't believe it. I kind of just shrugged it off, but I can still hear that laugh even now. Fast forward a few years, we are now in our own home, and one night I am once again awoken by some sort of vibration. I could feel it like shaking the bed. I looked around my room and once again I was paralyzed, unable to move but my eyes. I could see everything as it was, like the pet sleeping, my husband sleeping, the ceiling fan is on, etc. At this point, I'm wondering, how is it possible that my husband doesn't feel the bed shaking and isn't waking up? That's when I see the same hag-like creature standing in the doorway of my bathroom area as she slowly starts walking to my bed and crawling onto it. She again climbed all the way up to my chest and began laughing while scratching at me. Once again, I felt some inner version of myself rising up through my body, almost like hovering outside of myself, and ordering her to leave, and as before, she left. I can't physically move during these episodes, so I don't know how I can make them hear me, but somehow they do. I shook it off, went back to sleep, but it wasn't long before I awoke again, but this time the figure I saw appearing in my room was a woman, like a normal looking Hispanic lady with long dark hair and a bright pink shirt. I began to feel myself gearing up to send her away when suddenly she jumped on my chest, grabbed my shoulders, and shook me, saying, No, don't send me away, please. You have to remember me, please. But I was already doing that weird inner thing I would do to make them leave. I felt bad this time. She seemed desperate, like she needed help. But it all happened so quick. A quick Google search would say this was sleep paralysis, but I haven't really seen a ton of info on the visual aspects of my sleep paralysis, and it didn't feel like a dream. I could feel these spirits touching me, shaking the bed. I could hear their laugh. I could see them, not some dreamlike vision. I could feel the malevolence of the hag and the desperation of the woman. I don't think it was a dream. I think it's absolutely paranormal. I have had other incidents of seeing spirits, including a family member. I have had unexplainable experiences just about everywhere I go and live. I don't know why these experiences happen, but they fascinate me and fuel my obsession for the unexplained. Anyways, thank you for reading this. If you want to hear more, I will be happy to share. Take care and keep making videos. Jessica, thank you so much, Jessica, for writing in your story. I've never experienced sleep paralysis. Thank God, because just the way you described your encounters with it, I think I would pass greatly. You know, I would really not want to experience that. Like, it might not seem scary to people, like, oh yeah, it's just sleep paralysis. Even if it's paranormal or not, imagine that happening to you while you're such in a vulnerable state. Sleeping is such a vulnerable state. So no, just to not, I'd rather not think about it. But thank you so much, Jessica, for writing in your stories. Now let's move on to our next story. Hi Daisy, my name is Maria and I'm from California. This scary experience happened to me when I was 15. During the time that we went into lockdown, it was when I started to feel uneasy. I always felt anxious, depressed, sad, and angry for no reason. I went from being an energetic person to a sad person that didn't want to leave their bed. I started losing a lot of hair, my appetite, I lost a lot of weight, and my skin was terrible. I started getting a lot of sleep paralysis and saw black figures in the corner of my room, and saw a black figure with a hat too. These figures would slowly get close to me, and I refused to open my eyes during the nights to avoid looking at these black figures. During these nights, I started dreaming. I'm not sure if I was dreaming or not because it seemed too real. I always found myself in a random place in my house alone, and on one occasion, I was sitting on a chair in the dining table that faces the hallway to my room when I saw a tall black creature with horns and wings. Its red glowing eyes stared at me. The moment I saw this, my heart sank and I started sweating uncontrollably. I found myself crying non-stop as this creature got closer to me, and I felt like I couldn't run away because of how shocked I was. I woke up breathing heavily. I told my mother about this, and coming from a Mexican household, I expected her to give me a solution like if it was brujeria or something else, but told me that it was just a nightmare. The next night, I was too scared to sleep again, but ended up falling asleep, when this was the worst nightmare I've had. Or was it really a nightmare? I found myself outside in an abandoned house in an empty street when I heard a lady scream for help inside the house. I went running inside and saw an old lady sitting in a chair. She asked me if I can help her with some chores, and I had no choice but to stay and ask her some questions about where I am or who she is, because I was in control of this dream. She said she'll bring me tea and be right back, but time passed by and she didn't come back when I heard a loud thump coming from downstairs, as this was a 2-story house. I started feeling scared, and when I looked up the stairs, that is when I wanted to die. I saw the same creature from my first dream, but this time it was crawling. It let out a loud scream and told me in an evil, deep voice, "I'm going to take you with me." This was when I was able to run and get away from it and hide in a small hole that was on a wall and covered it by moving furniture. At this moment, I was quiet and I heard silence until I heard its footsteps getting closer, and it was throwing things to the ground as I heard things falling and breaking, such as glass. I heard silence again and thought it left when it literally threw over the furniture covering me. And the moment I faced this ugly creature, I let out a deadly scream. It was bent down on 4 legs like a dog, facing me, and told me, "I found you. Now I'm going to take you." I woke up and I couldn't move. I felt pressure on my chest and I couldn't scream until that pressure faded away. I got up quickly, breathing heavily, crying and screaming for my mom. Luckily, my sister was sleeping beside me and helped me get up. My mom came rushing in and told me that it's time to look for help. She got in contact with a healer from Mexico who promised to figure out what evil was within me and decided it's time for a limpia. After a week, my mom and dad called me over to speak. They looked concerned and their faces said it all. Something bad was happening to me. My mom told me that the lady saw something evil following me, and it was the cause for all of the distress. The lady told my mom that this evil thing had been following me since I was a child and looked for the perfect opportunity to make me miserable and weak enough to take me. She thanked my mom for telling her on time, because if it was going on for any longer, it would have been too late already. This thing wanted me to kill myself. I went on a limpia for a week and had to stay close to my family around this time because it was risky for me to be alone. My mom refuses to tell me everything that was told to her because she believes I won't handle it. I still suspect it was brujeria because I have had many enemies or people who don't like me overall. But now I'm 17 and about to be 18 and my family hasn't spoken about this anymore. I refuse to bring it up because seeing my parents cry the day they told me, I don't want to bring those moments back again. Sometimes I do feel scared to see this creature again randomly, but I hope I never do. Sorry for the long story. Thank you if you read all of this, Daisy, and I would be appreciative if you ever included it in one of your next videos. I love you and your videos. XOXO, Maria. Maria, love you too, girl, and do not apologize for a long story. I love all the information, all the little details. I'm super appreciative of, and I'm sure you guys are too. So mira, tell Maria down below, girl, do not even trip. Oh, we love it. But I'm just hoping you are in a better mindset, everything. I hope you are overall better. Hopefully that limpia worked. Whatever it was just cleansed out totally away, because I know. But what the heck, I'm just so glad that your mom, you know, wanted to seek help, whichever help it is. I understand if someone wants to, you know, therapist or things like that, or a priest or a curandera. Like, I do not judge, you know, resort, you know, like como exhaust all options. Do it. If it's for your mental space, for your mental health, do it. And I'm so glad you did, Maria. I hope you are better. But thank you so much for writing in. I love you too, girl. Thank you so much. Now moving on to our next story. Hey Daisy, firstly, thank you for picking this story. I enjoy your reading of stories and can only dream that you will pick mine to read. I do have more than one, but I will start off with this one. First off, thank you for writing in. I am flattered, but thank you so much. From a young age and even today, I have noticed that I hold a special superpower. This superpower is being able to be connected in some way to the other side. In the beginning, I remember that I felt I was the only one who was able to feel and experience these things. I still remember the first time I had sleep paralysis, although for me, I truly believe que los muertos se me suben. It's a really scary experience as you don't know what's going on. Being 10 years old and waking up out of nowhere to feeling scared and in panic, only moments before having full paralysis. Not being able to move, only able to think and praying to the Lord in my mind. It became really scary when I discovered two things. First, that even when my sister and I were in the same room, sleeping in the same bed, I was the only one that could be affected and feel it. Second, after years, I realized that my dad could also have the same kinds of experience as me at completely different times. There are more specific details and stories that go along with these realizations, but I don't want this one to be too long. Long story short, my dad eventually stopped having these episodes of night terrors and paralysis, but I didn't. The two instances I remember vividly that happened to me are as follows. First story, when I was 16 years old, I was sleeping in my room at the house my parents still own. My room was bright, and I remember that because it was the middle of winter. I had a heater turned on in my room which emitted a bright orange glow onto the entire room. I remember that I woke up and looked around the room. Everything looked normal and exactly like it should. I could tell it was still dark outside, and because it was all good, I decided to just turn over on my bed and fall back to sleep. It was at that moment that a feeling of panic and dread filled the room, and just as I was about to turn my back to face the wall, I ended up having paralysis. My eyes were wide open and I was 1000% aware of my surroundings. Even though I didn't see anything during my episode, I did hear something in my right ear. It was the crystal clear sound of a boat horn blasting through the air. All I remember was closing my eyes and saying, La sangre de Cristo tiene poder. The blood of Christ has power. over and over in my mind, and at some point it released me and I regained control of my body. From that day forward, I slept with my back to the wall every night, and it was after this incident that it stopped. Story number 2. Fast forward from being 16 in my parents' home to being 23 and living in my new home with my husband of 2 years at this point. The whole day was good and nothing seemed off. Once the night came, we were watching normal TV and having dinner and just relaxing. It wasn't until we were completely ready for bed that my husband decided to turn the lights off completely that it hit me. The terror of the night. I could tell right away that the room was way darker than usual. I snuggled closer to him and confessed that I did not feel safe in my own room, and he, being a skeptic, told me just to relax and take deep breaths. Eventually, I convinced myself that I was just flustered and that I needed to relax and go to sleep. Later that night, I awoke and immediately had the sensation that I was not alone, meaning something else in my room was awake and aware with me. I looked over to my husband, who was fast asleep, and knew the thing was coming to torture me. That's when it hit me. For the first time in all of my years of having paralysis, I finally saw something. I saw an angry woman looking straight into my eyes. I was laying on my back and she was hovering above me. I was able to see her from her torso up, but it had no arms. She was pale and she was angry. Her eyes were sunk in and black as night. Her mouth was long and her teeth were white and sharp, kinda like the nun. She let out the most horrific scream, and I kept praying and asking the Lord for my husband to wake up and touch me, but it never happened. Eventually, she left me. I was recovering and snuggled closer to my husband, but I could feel she wasn't gone. She was waiting for me to drop my guard. Needless to say, I spent a good while praying to God and kept repeating the magic words, La sangre de Cristo tiene poder. I asked for Michael the Archangel to watch over my home and my family's home, and asked the Lord to please drench the walls of all of our homes in his holy blood, and that whatever evil resided in my bedroom be removed in his holy name. I have way more stories I want to write out for you, including my breakdowns and premonitions about the future before it happens. I would also like to talk about my dad's experience on how they whispered to him to kill my baby brother. Thank you for your time, girl. Love you much. Danelli, love you too, girl. What the heck? Now I need to know about those premonitions, the breakdowns, your dad's experience about someone whispering that to his ear. Now I need to know who was it and why. What? I have questions. Please write that story in, because I'm very curious, girl. But sleep paralysis, yep, no, definitely. I think I would die in my sleep if I would encounter such things, because if you can't speak, if you can't move, and then this is all happening to you, say goodbye to Daisy if that would happen, because I don't think my heart can take it. But thank you so much, Danelli, for writing in your experience. And girl, I'm gonna be waiting on those stories. Those seem very interesting. Moving on to our next story. Hi Daisy, I am new to your channel. Welcome to my channel. I work at a hotel that is believed to be haunted. I do in-room dining, so I go into rooms by myself and clean mini bars while I listen to your videos. So you can imagine how that goes, lol. I just wanted to share a story with you. Wow, well, I mean, it takes a brave one, I'll say that. So since I was little, maybe 8 years old, I've always experienced sleep paralysis. I've heard sleep paralysis happens when a demon is trying to possess you. I'm not sure if it is true, but these experiences I've had kind of prove to me that it can possibly be true. I've had several, but too many to put all in one, so I'll just explain in short how they go. I don't have them very often, but when I do, it's always looking in the mirror at my own reflection, and my face starts deforming, and then it turns into an evil smile or face, just someone who is not me, and it starts laughing at me, and I freak out, but I can never move. My sleep paralysis always has something to do with me looking at a mirror, which I find super strange since they say mirrors are a gateway for the paranormal. Like I mentioned, I recently started working here at a hotel where they say a lady shot herself in room 228 10 years ago. A lot of workers who have worked here for years, like I'm talking about 20 plus years, say they have seen mysterious things here. They hear things get moved around, and some have seen a lady in a black dress with long hair. I've never paid much attention to that, never really thought about it too much, so there's no reason for it to stick in my head. Since a lot of people say that the brain can capture things and make you hear or see things that aren't there. But I never thought about it since, and it's been about 4 months since they told me this. Anyways, about a week ago or so, I experienced sleep paralysis again, after maybe about a year of my last episode. I call them episodes. I was laying down the opposite way that I usually do, so my feet were where I lay my head, and my head was where I usually lay my feet. For some reason that night, it felt cozy and comfortable to do that. I didn't realize that it would only make it worse for me. Before I forget to mention, I had my AC on and it makes a lot of noise. Also, I had a little nightlight on the side of my bed. It doesn't light much, but it becomes brighter at night. Well, later throughout the night, I randomly started hearing my AC sound like an old school TV when it's getting turned on and off and changing channels. It's a little hard to explain exactly the noise, but it just sounded like a very old TV. Then I opened my eyes because I had woken up. I swear I was awake throughout this whole thing because everything felt and looked too real. I started to notice that my nightlight started flickering on and off. I freaked out, so I tried moving, and the only part of my body that I was able to move was my head. So when I turned towards the mirror, I had a weird sensation, like I felt desesperada, anxious for some odd reason. I had a bad feeling, a weird pain in my chest, but I wasn't able to move, not even my head anymore. So my head was turned towards the mirror and a woman in black started to appear. She looked pale and had her hair so straight. She looked so skinny too, like she hadn't slept or ate in years. It was only like her upper torso. It was only about 3 seconds that I saw her, and then I started to freak out. I still wasn't able to move, but somehow I was able to snap out of it. I started wiggling around because my body just felt so stiff until I finally snapped out. When I did, I had goosebumps. My chest and my stomach hurt so much that whole night and the next day at work. I prayed and prayed so much to God because I had felt like I saw it all in real life, like it wasn't even sleep paralysis. Until this day, I keep calling it sleep paralysis because I'm trying to convince myself that I did not see that. But even after that night, I was hanging out with my boyfriend. It was around 8 p.m. We were in my downtown area where there are a lot of buildings with galleries, but everything was closed already and so lonely. We were just walking around and I suddenly started feeling like we were being watched and we weren't alone. I started feeling paranoid and anxious. I still get that feeling sometimes, but I haven't seen or heard anything. I just feel like I'm being watched. Well, that's really all that's happened lately. Just feeling eyes on me. But I recently bought sage and used my black tourmaline crystal to cleanse my room and the mirror where I saw that lady. So far, I felt a lot safer in my room than I did. But sometimes outside my room, I still feel someone watching me. Oh, well, that, just get that sage, cleanse the whole house, cleanse every little crevice. But maybe it has to do with you working at that hotel. Maybe you're bringing some energies and you just need to cleanse that out. Again, I'm no professional, but that is what I was thinking when I was reading your story. That's the thought that came to mind. But thank you so much for writing in. I'm gonna leave you anonymous because you didn't say you want me to say your name, so let's leave it like that. And if you have any more stories from the hotel, maybe things have happened to you or from your coworkers, write them in. I'm super curious. But thank you so much for writing in. So that was it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys would like to share any spooky story, please send it in at daicyspooks@gmail.com. We would love to hear your stories. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys all in my next one. Bye.